It's Jefferson, climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness!
What is up? Jabroni JJ back here with Stevers talking little
Stevers. It's Stevers, man. Come
I'll
on.
tell you this. I can get behind Stevers when you add an extra E in the middle of fucking Stevers. Then we can talk on Stevers. I'd even allow you to add an I somewhere in between there. An E in the I, IE. Then we can talk Stevers. But you know what? Fine. I'll call you by how the name's supposed to be pronounced. But I would definitely think about in that family tree of yours, maybe sticking another E in there for clarification, This is just
Whatever gets it done, man. Whatever gets people to stop mispronouncing it, I'll do it.
yeah, definitely. You add one E in there, people stop mispronouncing it for sure. But no, all good all around. It is a lovely Saturday in most areas. Hope you guys enjoyed yourself. I was fortunate enough to already lose a bet today. So, I mean, and you parlay that on top of a running and scoring position nightmare for me yesterday. I'm also dealing with a blister on my thumb. There's all these massive things that are going against me, Stevers. But yet we're here, and you know who's not here? Holden Kushner playing hooky on his first time he's on this show on a Saturday. He goes, "Hey, let's get me more involved. Let me get on more shows." And what happens? 5:30, his first opportunity on a Saturday show. What does he do? No shows. Some would call it hooky. Some would call it he doesn't care. Regardless, I'll bust his balls tomorrow on the morning show. But yes, Stevers, what's going on with you? How's everything?
Well, first things first. Hopefully he's all right because we haven't heard from him, right? So,
what if you know what? I'm not even going to say what I was going to say.
If we would have heard something, he would have bailed. We can bust his balls all we want, but hopefully the guy's okay. I mean, we haven't heard from him, so I don't want to beat him up too bad.
Yeah, I picture him mid-bender right now, probably dealing with a lot of shit. Maybe drugs are involved. But either way, I'm sure he's all right. He's a grown adult. Stevers, what else going on? You haven't done a show with you in a while.
Yeah, last week. My last show was last Saturday. It looks like I might be on the Saturday gig every week, man. I'm excited about it. Been breaking this down for a couple of hours, running Saber, the usual stuff, man. I ain't got much going on. I live for baseball, so I'm always in it, man.
Love it. Even got the little golf hat there. I mean, yeah, just full board season. We got college football and NFL right around the corner. So good stuff all around. Hey, there you go. We got the Cleveland hat back.
Sorry.
Quick shout to Jacob, Jason, Yeezy, Stone. And just to be clear, I don't care if you wore a hat with the Easter Bunny on it. I mean, for all I care, whether it's golf, bowling, trust me, the hat doesn't need to match up. You're playing. If you're on a show with me, I can't speak about that with Holden. He comes with a lot of rules. Yeezy, Stoner, James Sarcone definitely sounds like a bender. So I hope everybody's doing well. And yes, got a fun little Saturday slate. Contest still pretty open, all things considered, for this time. Now, granted, I'm sure UFC's in that mix for why, but needless to say, we got a nice little 8-gamer tonight, Stevers, and we'll just go through game by game. I'll touch on a bet or two that I made, and then I'll push over DFS to you, and then we'll all go home, potentially masturbate a few times. Whatever
at least
it is.
Once.
Yeah, whatever it is people do for fun that's legal. Maybe even some illegal things as well. What's up, Riley? All right, so let's kick off the slate. So first game up, Baltimore and the New York Mets. Now, I actually did bet this game, Stever, so I'm interested in your thoughts from a DFS perspective. So I laid that first 5 run with Baltimore, and I'm really not a first 5 lay the half run guy. I mean, obviously it's a very popular bet in baseball. It's not what I usually do. If anything, I normally take that half run first 5. But this spot to me makes a ton of sense. I always like backing Gibson when he's home. And Tyler McGill has looked absolutely awful. The Mets we already know are kind of packing it in already, if you will, which is kind of crazy, all things considered. This team was picked by many to potentially get to the World Series, maybe even win the World Series preseason, but they have kind of mailed it in, at least to a certain extent. I think it's a really good spot for Gibson. The line feels a little big to back Gibson against the Mets, but I do believe this Mets team is going to be in at least 50 to 60% tank mode from here on out. Their lineup obviously is decent, but I do expect some random call-ups and some random guys to be starting as well. especially with them off-putting Scherzer, Verlander. So yes, I actually like the Orioles, which means I have to like their sticks. So I did lay that first 5 -125. I think you can get as low as -120 now if you waited. But needless to say, Stevers, on your end, Baltimore sticks, did they pop for you? And what are you doing with the Mets?
Absolutely. You kind of threw me a curveball, actually. I thought we were going to break down pitching and then go game by game, but I'm with you, man. I'm totally let's
Oh,
just
so I apologize. I just kind of made up the rubric as we go. But ultimately, for me, I typically when I do this, I go game by game, talk DFS for each game. But look, I'm happy to accommodate anything you'd like to do, Steve. Just let me know.
No, I'm good to go, man. Let's go game by game for sure. Because I have it on the screen that way anyway. Yeah, you got to love these Baltimore bats, right? McGill is somebody that we've been picking on forever, and it's been very profitable. I'm going to make a big case for playing Kyle Gibson today, too. 7,900. So when I jumped on Sabre not too long ago, you see this huge Steven Matz ownership number that we'll get to in a little bit that I'm totally not on board with. That's chalk that I'm completely staying away from. Not to say he hasn't been good, not to say he can't go out there and perform well, get you, 18 to 22 fantasy points, but there's just other places I'd rather be. When that many people are relying on him to perform, I'm kind of running away from that. So, I'll get on board with some expensive chalk, but some cheaper chalk that can go south quickly, no. But anyway, I got a little off track there. Back to this Mets-Baltimore game. Yeah, I'm kind of staying 1 through 5 on these Orioles bats. I think that's the way to go for me today. I don't want to go down 6 through 9. Again, not trying to say that they can't perform. But all the guns are at the top, right? And I got a couple of cheap pitching options where I can fit them too. So Rushman, then Gunnar, Santander, O'Hearn, Mountcastle. That's where I'm going to be for my 5-mans. Definitely have exposure to it, even though it's going to be one of the higher owned stacks. Mets. I can't remember who said it on the show yesterday. It might have been Big T. It might have been Boynton, but we're at the point in the season where they're just going to mail it in, right? This team is going south quick. Like you said, they're going to have some call-ups. They're going to bounce this lineup around. The lineup looks pretty standard today, but still maybe just a one-off here and there. And probably not, because I'm really high on Kyle Gibson today. Kyle Gibson is going to be my go-to guy, no doubt. I'm staying away from Steven Matz. And if you pull up, not only have I watched him a couple of times, and and anybody that knows me knows I'm a big eye test guy. I love the MLB TV, the playback. I got this trick where, man, I DVR the game and then I play it back in 1.5 times speed. And it's just an amazing way to watch the game. I'm serious. I can zip right through all the brand new baseballs and all of the bullshit. And he's a guy that I like a lot, especially today, because he's going to be lower owned. And I think he can put up a nice performance at 7,900. So no Mets, lots of Orioles, and definitely some Kyle Gibson for me.
Yeah, I think that obviously just to touch on McGill, who's got awful weighted OBA numbers against both sides of the plate, especially righties. It should be a good spot for the O's bats. We say should. Mm-hmm. The sport comes with a tremendous amount of variance. The one thing I'll say with Gibson, and look, obviously we'll end up talking on Matz when we get to that game. Man, this dude is priced heavy for his upside. Granted, I know he's got a 35 burger somewhere in there this year, maybe even another, but
you talk about Gibson.
Gibson specifically, yeah. This is a guy that at this point in his career, he's very playable when he's in that 6 to low 7K range. He's practically 8K today, which is a price he hasn't been since the end of June. And again, not to say he can't get there. Obviously, this sport climbs, and it's an 8-game slate where you got to make a decision, right? If you're not, this slate is really all around what you're doing with Steven Matz, and we'll get to that game obviously in a few, but. If you're not playing Matz, it does make you kind of have to look at guys like Gibson today. It's really just what it comes down to. If you're somebody that looks at this slate and goes, look, Steven Matz just makes a ton of sense. I get it. He's going to be chalk again. Because remember, he was chalk last week too. I don't know why they continue to keep his price under 7K. He's throwing as good as he has all season. Like if Steven Matz gets the price boost he should have after, 3 straight 20 burgers and a 30 burger with one paltry start in between, he's priced in that, 775-100 area. We liked him as chalk at 5,800 last week, 6,900 as chalk. I agree with you. I wouldn't climb that ladder. But yeah, you end up having to play guys you're not going to feel totally comfortable with. Gibson's in a good spot. I just wish his price was a little cheaper. But yeah, you're going to get sub 10% ownership on him. So to your point, on an 8-game slate, that's could definitely do worse. Yeah. And I love the sticks. I'll be honest, I'd be okay with any sticks, Orioles up and down. You definitely get your cheaper sticks once you go through from 4 down. If you were to pay up for pitching in some capacity on this slate, you go 4 through 7, or even stick Urias at there in 8th in some capacity. You have a lot of money to play with a stack that should be in good shape. Mets bullpen hasn't been great either. So if McGill doesn't even go long, these guys are going to get good looks today in a spot that makes a ton of sense. So I appreciate it. And Jason likes
to fight all the time, right? It's the fight that we fight every single day. Either you're going to pay up for pitching and you're going to have to play some bottom of the order bats, or you're going to be able to save some money somewhere along the line with pitching, and you can go 1 through 5. I may throw if the guy I'm probably going to put in there is Cowser. If I don't play 1 through 5, it's probably going to be Cowser. But again, I want to stay at the top. It's where all the power is. It's where all the heat is.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Quick shout out to my guy Jake. What's up, my man? Hope all is well. All right, let's move on to the second game. So, actually, as silly as it sounds, these are the 2 games I bet. These first 2 games in the slate. It wasn't designed this way, but these are the 2 games that I bet. For this game here, San Francisco and Oakland, I actually bet under San Francisco's team total at 4.5. Got that -115. It might be as low as -105 now with some steam over coming in on this game. I get it. You got 2 bad pitchers or 2 pitchers for sure. Going at it, and it is actually going to be a little warmer than expected in Oakland. I think that was really where my angle was when I looked at this game earlier. I don't know how this happened. I'm not a weatherman, but the game temperature for the temperature for this game tonight was supposed to be like 56, 57. Now it's like 73, 74. Again, I'm no weatherman, but this was definitely not what I saw when I bet this game earlier. Not that it matters all that much, but look, if it definitely helps to be cooler than warmer when it comes to totals. But the main reason why I liked it is this San Francisco Giants team is simply not hitting. I don't think they've scored more than 4 runs in a game, maybe 9 straight games. And at minimum, it's like they've done it like once in their last like 15 or 16 games. It's actually pretty crazy. And it's actually, to me, what's even crazier is like almost nobody's talking about it. This team is 12 games over 500, and they're absolutely not hitting, which goes all the credit to how good their pitching's been. But for me, it's just a matter of, I don't want to call it riding the trend, but when you're not hitting, you're not hitting, and they're in a big ballpark. And Blackburn's been okay. Like his advanced numbers aren't bad. I mean, I wish he struck people out because then we could consider him in DFS. But like this recent surge of strikeouts, I'm not exactly totally on par with. But with that said, I know Stripling's expected to see some ownership. That's a big no for me. I could be convinced a little bit into Blackburn, but it's tough, to be honest, at his price. But I do love the fact, and it has all to do with the lack of strikeouts. But in terms of this spot, I get it. The Oakland Pen's not great either. But again, you're looking at a bad rotation of sorts and a team that's simply not hitting. Again, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it's like one of their last 15 games that they've gone over 4 runs, the San Francisco Giants. So happy to jump on that number 4.5 in a big park. What says you about this game, Stevers?
I'm actually really happy to hear you say that because we didn't talk about anything before the show started. And I think this could be just the boringest baseball game on the board. This game could really, I mean, neither of these pitchers are impressive, but it doesn't mean this can't be a 2-1 ball game or a 2-0 ball game. The Pens are bad. The pitchers are bad. I just don't have much interest in this game other than Paul Blackburn. I will make a case for Paul Blackburn. He's not a big strikeout guy. He's kind of a pitch to contact guy, right? But with how bad these Giants have been, I think it's 9 straight games where they've scored under 4 runs. But I'd have to pull it back up. They are scuffling. This lineup is, I thought, like a month and a half ago, was showing some promise, but Blackburn being right-handed, even the lefties in this lineup don't scare me. So Yastrzemski's not in the lineup today. I'm looking at it now, 1 through 9, and just nothing about this is intriguing to play them, and nothing about it is scary to not play Blackburn. Blackburn's going to help me fit some of these bigger stacks I have at 6,700, so he's definitely going to be in the player pool. He's coming off 22 DK points against Colorado in Coors. He threw a decent game against Houston before that. If he can keep the walks down. So last game he threw 6 innings and he had 0 walks. Before that, he had some trouble. He walked 4 White Sox. He walked 2 Red Sox. He walked 3 and 5 innings at Houston. If he can keep the walks down, I can pair him with somebody up top. We're going to talk about Corbin Burns and Blake Snell in a little bit. I can pair him with somebody up top, and he's going to help me get to some of the bigger stacks I want. So the only interest I have in this game really is Blackburn, and I won't be overweight on him. He'll have some ownership, but he's definitely going to be in the pool, no doubt.
Yeah, and just to be quick, because obviously we got some comments on that. And by the way, shout out to Big T. What's going on? Hopefully you get our friend Sylvester Accor before he totally loses his entire cool. As for San Francisco, look, I could definitely be convinced into a mini stack. I know I like the bet perspective of them going under 4.5 runs, but man, these dudes are cheap. And what's odd for me is the steam that's kind of been seen on this game. You just don't see many totals at this park climb up to 8.5 with just in general. And this game has been steamed. The Giants have been heavily steamed. I get it. They haven't been hitting, but you could do a mini stack of 1-2 off. These bats are cheap, and they are facing Blackburn, and they do get this Oakland pen. So yeah, I could definitely be convinced to a mini stack, but I would not do anything overly crazy for this game. And as for Blackburn, I think we're both on the same page here, Stevers. I don't mind playing him at all at his price. Again,
I'm convinced this is going to be a boring game. I'm convinced that this is going to be one of the maybe not sneaky, but I'm convinced this is going to be one of the lowest scoring games of the day. 2-1, 3-1, 2-0. There's not much here to get excited about, for me at least.
Makes a ton of sense. I mean, again, it does appear like the yawn game on the slate. Let's move over to the 7-10 games. We'll go Cleveland White Sox. So on this end, hold on one second. So Noah Syndergaard going for the Guardians, -145 against Michael Kopech. I mean, what's interesting here to me is like how the mighty have fallen. These two matching up against one another, totals 9.5 in not exactly a hitter's park. This total, correct me, biggest total on the slate, which is very interesting. Noah Syndergaard has been nothing short of a train wreck, and the fact that the Dodgers couldn't even fix him tells you how much of a train wreck he is. Everybody goes to the Dodgers as pitchers, and they just get fixed with whatever their problems are. But he has been struggling mightily. And look, on the Kopech end, I don't even know what to make of this kid. This kid has so much potential, and he's just not living up to it. Obviously, he's a flamethrower, throws a lot of heat, definitely goes over 100. But I don't know if it's mental with him, but he's been tough to watch. And the White Sox have been even more tough to watch as a group. They started to get their bats a little healthy, but way too little, way too late. This game in particular, I don't want anything to do with the pitching, whether it's Syndergaard or Kopech. And as I look at the ownership numbers, it's not like these are like two complete fades either. I mean, I'm seeing anywhere between like 6 to 8% ownership, which it might not seem like too much, but it's an 8-game slate. It could bump up to 9 or 10. Noah Syndergaard at 6,400. It just feels like he would see some ownership as a favorite in this spot at that price. Kopech is unplayable for me at that price. But the sticks, Stevers, I assume you're not doing anything with the pitching, but the sticks, what are your go-tos for this game?
So, I have a lot of interest in the sticks. In my opinion, Michael Kopech just can't be played at all. Even at this price tag this is an enormous price tag for him at 8,600. But last week he was 7,400. The week before that, last week they played Cleveland. His last start was against Cleveland. He was 7,400. He put up a whopping 3.9 DK points, if anybody's interested. He just can't be played for me. His walks are way up. The guy, again, I'm big on the eye test, and the guy just looks like he has ADHD out on the mound. He just cannot get his shit together, and just, in my opinion, just can't be trusted. But I think there's a lot of interest in the bats in both of these games. I think there's going to be runners all over the base pads in this game. Kopech's going to walk them. Syndergaard can definitely walk them. The Indians are kind of a contact team, right? Like they're going to have about 11 or 12 singles today and score 3 runs, which just pisses me off watching every single game. It's just so annoying that they're so void of power. But I think there's going to be base runners all over these base paths. Like everybody that touches first base is going to steal a base. It's going to steal second off of Syndergaard. There could be some good fantasy points in this game. So for the Cleveland side, you're going to get some ownership at these top of the order guys. J Ram's going to be owned. Stephen Kwan is going to be owned. I think there will be less ownership against Syndergaard for the White Sox, and I'm looking for that lineup. But
yeah, it's you got on the Cleveland end. You talk on the White Sox bats or Cleveland bats? Which ones?
The White Sox bats.
Yeah, so you got Anderson at 38. You got Benintendi hitting the 2-hole at 31. Luis Roberts obviously 59. But you can just dodge Robert Jr. And you can get this really cheap stack. Obviously you can pair Robert Jr. in there. I just think, like, I look at this ownership numbers. I don't understand how 1-2 for the White Sox won't be seeing more ownership than this projection. Like that 1-2 combo at their price with their implied total, like these guys. I mean, I understand the lack of upside, especially with a guy like Benintendi who really doesn't hit home runs and he doesn't steal bases either. So I get that for tournaments. Benintendi's tough to play. It's only 3,100 though. But Tim Anderson definitely has upside. He's been terrible all year. But at least he'll steal the occasional base, and his lack of pop has been absolutely head scratching, which I guess could be towards why these ownership numbers are so down. But this is a good spot for them, and you already mentioned about the stolen bases. It wouldn't be crazy to think they could happen, and these guys look like they're going to come in quite low owned, Stevers.
They are, and that's the kind of the side of the game I want to be on. Like I said, there's going to be base runners all over the base pads in this game. I think this could be kind of an exciting game to watch, and I watch them all, so it doesn't really matter. If it's a tribe game, I'm watching it. So I think maybe their ownership, I don't know why there's some belief in Noah Syndergaard nowadays, just from that one start in his debut at Cleveland, but maybe it's because the White Sox lineup is a little bit right-handed heavy. But again, that doesn't deter me from playing them either. I mean, I can get Eloy Jimenez at 3,900. I can get Yasmani Grandal at 2,800.
I guess that's what I'm getting at, where it gets weird, because it's not very common that you have a very cheap pitcher who's a minus 180 favorite in a guy like Syndergaard, who's low priced at 6,400, and also the bats on the other side of the game are all low owned. It's not a common thing. That's why I think something's going to give either Syndergaard's going to see a little higher ownership, or these bats will see a little higher ownership, because it doesn't really make sense as far as projections of ownership goes when this type of stuff happens.
Now, just to clarify, I'm completely going here for mini stacks. I'm not going to 5-man either one of these teams today. But I do want to have some exposure to, some of these at bats with runners in scoring position, some of these stolen bases that are going to take place here today. So I'm going to have quite a bit of this game, but I'm certainly not trying to 5-stack either of these teams.
All right, let's move on to a game that's got a little more things to at least talk about. Corbin Burnes figures to be the cat's meow on this slate from a pitching perspective. Obviously, we'll talk on Blake Snell, but from a higher priced option and from ownership percentages, Corbin Burnes looks to be one of the top dogs on the slate. Which, here's what I find absolutely crazy, Stevers. Corbin Burnes got the boost up to 11.7 or 11.8. He hasn't been in this price range in God knows how long.
Right.
He hasn't been over 11K I mean, he hasn't been over 11K all season. He's been over 10K twice all season, and they just rocket shipped this dude up to 11.7 after a paltry start. Why didn't they do this with Matz? Like, if you were that okay to do it with Burns, why not do it with Matz? Anyway, as for this spot, Corbin Burns just ass rams me every time I play him, every time I bet on him. The spot makes sense. Pittsburgh has sort of hung it up. They did have a little bit of a stretch for a while earlier in the year where they were playing pretty well, but now they're definitely in a bit of a complete downslide. Bailey Falter, for the folks that remember him on the Phillies 2 years ago, was a complete gas can. Last year, pitched a little better, but a lot of that seemed fortunate for him. This year, it looks like he's back to 2021. Bailey Falter, the one that was a batting home run derby pitcher for the Phillies. So hard to truly make of it on that end. Brewers have been playing good ball. Burns has been pitching relatively okay. But let's be honest, he's been pitching relatively okay all year long, especially for his standards. Granted, if this was some nobody that's 9-6 with a 3.44 ERA, you're thinking very highly of him. But this is Corbin Burns, a guy that's up there for a Cy Young almost every year for the last few seasons. What are you doing here, Stevens? From a betting perspective, I don't want to touch this game. Milwaukee's minus 260. It's a fat line. Falter is very targetable for sure. Mm-hmm. How high are you on Burns, and are you mixing bats with Burns?
I am not mixing bats with Burns, but I am extremely high on Burns today. He is the guy. I'm locking him in. He's on my main team. I'm going to be way over the field in all of the max entry contests I'll be in, which I'm not playing a lot today. I'm playing a couple single entries, and I'm playing that $4.20 max. So I'm not even playing any 150s, but Corbin Burns just checks all of the boxes today. And without making this too long, where do you even start? I mean, he's been so good. The xFIP is good. The strikeout rate is good. The walk rate is low. It's Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been terrible against right-handers, not only in the last month, but pretty much all season. They are not a good team against right-handed pitching. And Corbin Burns has that big ceiling that I want. He has that big strikeout potential. Like when you said, how come Steven Matz's number didn't spike like Corbin Burns's did, I think it's strictly because of the strikeout potential. Corbin Burns can go out and strike out every other hitter he faces. On any given day, Corbin Burns can go out and strike out a dozen hitters. I'm all about him today. I'll have no Pittsburgh for that reason. Corbin Burns, just lock him in every lineup. I hate the price tag. Last week we got him at 10.3, and he got a full 1,500 bump in price tag. It's 11.7, which is a little rough. He's going to be the chalk, depending on what contest you're in. He's going to be it'll be minimum 30 or 35%, maybe all the way up to 50. Who knows what he will be owned? It will be the chalk, but we talk about good chalk. We talk about bad chalk. This is the type of chalk I want to be a part of. I'll have a ton of Corbin Burns today.
Fair enough. And now we're about halfway through these games. Folks, you can like the video. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to sting you. If anything, maybe makes you feel a little good about yourself. Maybe doing something nice for the Run Pure family. And the video's free. You can like it. The content's obviously always legitimate on the Run Pure Sports end for sure. And look, got a new code, 23% off for life. Promo code NFL23. So the Summer 33 one was over, but we do have 23% off for life. NFL23. Head over to Run Pure Sports to get all of the goodies there. Okay, let's move on to the next game, Minnesota-Arizona. Another quote-unquote of the chalkier pitchers for this slate. To me, the easiest fade of the three. I don't have a strong take betting-wise in this game, but I do know that I will never play Kenta Maeda at 9,500. The guy doesn't strike out consistently near enough guys, paired with his inability to eat innings, makes him very difficult to play at 9,500. This is the highest price he's been all year. He actually hasn't been even priced above 8,600 all year. So another guy seeing a completely price spike, and it's not like he's seeing a price spike against a team that can't hit. The Diamondbacks have been able to hit most of the season. So it's no disrespect to Maeda. He's had a decent year, and his strikeouts have been up recently. But woof, this price tag makes it very difficult, pound for pound, to play him, in my opinion. And he's also going to be, as far as projections go, similarly owned to Corbin Burnes and Blake Snell. So to me, it makes him tough to play. I get why he's similarly owned because he has the highest upside of any pitcher not named Burnes or Snell that at least is under 10K. So I get that. But either way, what are you doing here, Stevers? Do you like anything in this game? And what's your thoughts on Maeda?
So, yeah, I'm pretty much in lockstep with you. I hate the ownership. I can't play him at this ownership. He'll be in the pool for my 20 max. He can't make the main team at this price tag and this ownership. I just can't do it. Arizona can be pesky from time to time. They can be one of those teams that can slap it around and put some runs up. Not trying to say they're going to do it against Maeda, but again, like I said earlier in the show, if I feel like too many people are relying on the guy, then I don't want to have to rely on him. So they talked about on the show yesterday about how dead on Captain has been with his projections, and he has been. He's just been so good and so locked in. He's projected at 20 fantasy points today. Can I get a similar game from a guy that is cheaper at less ownership? Yeah, I think I can. I probably can't get the same game. I may fall 3, 4, 5 fantasy points behind him, but I'm with you at this ownership and especially at this 95 price tag. I can't be a part of it. I'll be way under the field. He'll be in the pool, but he'll only be in just a few lineups. And I'm in a position where I can't double spend up. Corbin Burnes is a lock for me in every lineup. And if I want the stacks that I want to get to, I can't pay 9,500 at SP2. I got to go down. So I'll have some Arizona bats. I'll play against Maeda a little bit because of the ownership, but I won't have much of him at all. By
the way, pound for pound, my favorite stack on this slate, just based on the way the pricing goes, is the Twins. The way they're priced, the way they're projecting for ownership today, they could definitely have a smack up type day. And I get it. Like you look at some of these sticks in the lineup, it's like, but you're not paying anything for these guys, and they're in a good spot to score runs today. Price wise, what's your thoughts on stacking the Twins? Because I'll be honest, 3-man, 4-man, 5-man stacks for the Twins on this slate where you're looking to save some money in a good spot for runs. I really like the Twins today.
I love a 3-man here. Absolutely. I will go here quite often to Minnesota for my minis. When I play Minnesota, I play Buxton, and he's not in the lineup, so I get to save some money that way automatically. Right at the top of the order, Julian, Polanco, Kepler, I'll go there, absolutely. Even Jeffers has been on a nice roll. Wallner's got some power. At 2,400, you're getting a lot of these guys at really good price tags, and they help me fit what I want as far as these higher priced 5-mans. If you're going to go, to the Orioles for your 5-man, if you're going to go to the Dodgers or the Padres, you're going to have to find savings somewhere, and Minnesota's a really nice place to do it. I agree with you 100%.
Cool. Let's move over to the fun chalk, right? Steven Matz today, Cardinals, Rockies. Now, the Rockies stole a win yesterday, looked decent offensively. By the way, you can get tickets as low as $3 for this game, for those wondering.
$3?
Yeah, $3. You can get it.
You get a ticket to the ball game for $3?
It's more expensive. It's more expensive to buy Big League Chew than to go to this game. Now, granted, you'll be in the nosebleed, so bring some tissues. But for $3, tough to argue. Now, I'm sure with like service fees and whatnot, it'll end up being a robust $7.50 to go to the game. But just saying.
Yeah, well, like when I go downtown to the Tribe game, it's $12. You can get a seat in the bleachers for $12. But $3, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals aren't what people thought they were, and the Rockies are a complete tomato can. So I could see why pricing would be low. With that said, Steven Matz on one end has been pitching phenomenal. I don't like that his price came up. I know on the Sunday show when he was in the 5K range, I think he was in the 5K range. He made a lot of sense. Also, he was facing the Cubs. Now, I know that he's facing the Rockies, which I'd argue is a better spot. But another 1,100 makes it tough for, again, a guy that really doesn't strike anybody out. but coming off a start where he didn't strike out many, I'm actually interested in what his prop is. So interestingly enough, Stevers, his prop for strikeouts is 5.5 with heavy vig to the over. I'm going to be honest. And I know you're not going to like to hear this.
You like that?
That almost makes him a lock. Like
really
on the slate. Yeah. Because like on this slate, and I get it because I can get behind not wanting to play Matz, but as we go through the slate, there's just not enough other pitching around him. And like instead, what people are going to do is they're going to overpay for guys like Blake Snell against the Dodgers. They're going to overpay for a guy like Maeda. They're going to overpay for Corbin Burns. And not to say that you can't stick those guys in. Of course you can. It's just that you're overpaying for them when I don't really know based on these projections that you're really overpaying for Matz. He's projected to go 6 innings and strike out 6. And he's 6,900 against one of the worst hitting teams in baseball. And he's home. And he's also a minus, 260 favorite, 250 favorite.
Yep.
On a slate where you can't really love pitching. I know you said you love Kyle Gibson, but let's be honest, Stevers, you love Kyle Gibson for this slate. If you had more options, you would probably like other people more than just Kyle Gibson. I'm not saying Matz can't get rocked. We know Matz can get rocked. He's that type of pitcher. But man, at 6,900 with these peripherals and the lack of true pitching depth on this slate, he is tough to not play in my opinion. And granted, I throw around the word lock, but it's just tough on this slate for where you're going to find points from the pitcher position. And he definitely saved you some salary too. And that's why I look at the ownership numbers on him. And it looks like he's going to be, let's see, sub 20, 25, 26, 27%. I'll be honest, he's probably going to be 30, maybe even more. Just because, again, once you start building lineups, he just makes a lot of sense. Because as you kind of saw me go, I don't want to say I went full circle, but I was definitely on the indifference with Steven Matz, and now it's kind of hard not to play him. What's your thoughts on Matz? And I know you're not a big fan of the projection, 35, potentially 40% ownership on Matz. But, man, as you look through this slate, good chalk, bad chalk, hard to not get behind him. But what's your thoughts?
Right. So what's not to like about Steven Matz today? The only thing not to like about him is the ownership. I mean, he has a great matchup. He has a good K prop. He's been really good in the last month or so. The xFIP is right around 3.6, I believe. The strikeout rate's 26%. He's not walking guys. He gets the Rockies outside of Coors Field. Who doesn't try to pick on that spot when they get it? Like everything lines up to love Steven Matz today. And don't get me wrong, I do too. But the ownership is the reason I won't be there. And that's all it has to do with. I think I can get another down low pitcher here to give me a similar performance where I don't have to have 35% of him owned. That's it. Because there's really, I mean, when you break it down, there is nothing not to like about Steven Matz's matchup today. It's ownership. That's it. It's strictly an ownership play. So I'll be under the field with him. I will play him, but I'll be under. And I'm going to try to play against him a little bit because so many other people are going to rely on him. That's kind of my MO. If you're counting on him, I want to play against him. So,
yeah, and I can't blame that. And look, we talked on Paul Blackburn. I'll be honest, even seeing his props a little surprising. I mean, he's 4.5 minus 140 for Ks, which to me is kind of interesting because, you know, in theory, if we just had more reliable bats on this slate, you could probably just roll out Blackburn and Matz and just let people overpay for pitching and just hope that your short guys get you 15 or 16 points. And even if these guys get 20, 21, 22, it's fine because of the price discrepancy. But yes, of course, if one of these three pitchers nuke big pitchers, it'll be a problem. But I don't think it's absolutely crazy to play, you know, Matz and even Blackburn together. Again, just based on their peripherals and price alone. But, you know, I've obviously no need to go absolutely crazy there. You doing anything with St. Louis's sticks?
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta like the lefties in this lineup. I rarely stack the Cardinals anyway. And when I do it, I'm always inclined to put Goldschmidt and Arenado in there. And that's probably a mistake on my part. I just feel like when I stack this team, I just need to have them in there. And I probably don't. They are expensive. they chew up the majority of the salary when you 5-stack this team. So I like Nootbaar a lot in the 9-hole. I like Gorman hitting 5th. Sorry, I got that combined with another team there. Edman's going to be really high owned. He's going to be one of the most popular one-offs on the whole slate, I think. And deservedly so. He's a switch hitter. He's in a good matchup. He's going to get to pick on this bullpen. Not only this starter, but he's going to get to pick on the bullpen too. Walker's a nice play at 2,800. Right-handed, but really don't care. I like picking on the Colorado pitching staff, especially when they're away from home, even when they're at home. I mean, they just have a terrible ballpark. They can be picked on at any moment, in my opinion. Trying to find what that stack is going to be owned. It's probably going to be, I'm guessing.
I could pull that up. It's likely not going to be as popular as people think, just because people don't like to pair pitching with bats. And it's
probably going to be like the 4th or 5th most popular stack. I can't imagine that it's.
This is this actually no. Hold on, I don't have it fully. Hold on, we're getting there. This is actually higher than I would have envisioned. These are Tommy Edman's gonna be the most popular guys in the slate, which I guess makes sense. He's 3,300 leading off. But yeah, it's actually kind of crazy. He's gonna be probably 24, probably even a little higher than that as far as ownership. And then these guys are all sub 12, 15%. This stack is gonna be popular, at least for this slate.
I'm hoping that this stack falls like the 4th or 5th most popular stack, but it may end up being the 3rd or 4th. I don't have it. I'd have to think that Baltimore's probably going to be, I don't know, maybe Baltimore and
Seattle,
maybe. Maybe Seattle's going to be a really popular 5-man. I'm not sure.
It's pretty scattered. I mean, ownership on this site's relatively scattered. I don't think there's any like quote unquote chalk. Yeah, Seattle will be popular, but the Cardinals are going to be not much less popular. That's for sure. We've already talked on some of the other groupings of runs and run outputs, and of course, people will mix and match that Cleveland White Sox game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, and look, we didn't really talk much on the San Francisco Bats because we were pro Blackburn, but even they're not going to see much ownership. So it is pretty scattered, this slate. A lot of 10 to 12 to 15% stacks. So yeah, just whatever. If you're going to stack one stack, just get it right tonight and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm going to play a lot of these St. Louis bats, getting back to this St. Louis and the Rockies game. You can still get some really nice price tags in here. Whereas some of these other teams, like we talked about, like we're going to talk about, the Dodgers and the Padres, teams like this, it's just hard to find pieces that are, say hovering around 4K. And you can find a lot of those pieces in that St. Louis lineup. It's a great spot. I think they put up some runs today. I definitely have interest for sure.
Good stuff. Let's move over to we've got 2 games left. The late game hammers, if you will. So we'll go Padres Dodgers. Now, look, I've always been a Blake Snell guy. I know that the argument was made that he only had one good year where he won his Cy Young, where he had a ridiculous season. And then if you separate his numbers, take this whole season out of the equation, before this year, he really had one elite year, and the rest have just been like mid at best type seasons. But boy, has he found himself this season. He has been phenomenal for a long stretch, and this stretch just continues to go on. I think we're almost 2.5 months now of this Blake Snell stretch, because he started the season with his ERA up over 6 the first month. He's been incredible. Now, my issue as far as this line goes, I've said this before. You're not going to catch the Dodgers in many spots where they're plus 140. So just that alone makes it very difficult for me to bet the Padres. But in terms of how the game breaks out, as far as pitching and bats and whatnot, Blake Snell is a guy I absolutely love to play when he's in the AKs. He has that type of win you a tournament type upside. But he walks a ton of guys, which means his pitch count flies up and he rarely goes past the 5th or 6th inning. And you are now paying the de facto and this is kind of being a common theme. It's not like a broken record, but all these pitchers that you're paying top price for are priced higher than they've been all season. And Blake Snell is no different to that entire equation. Blake Snell, you are paying the highest price you've paid all year for Blake Snell against arguably one of the best lineups in baseball. So I get it. The Dodgers are dealing with some injuries. This is not the lineup I think that people expect out of the Dodgers, especially you look towards the bottom of this lineup, and it definitely can make you scratch your head. But you still have some heavy threats towards the top of this lineup. And Blake Snell will give up free passes, and Blake Snell is likely to give up a long ball or two. To me, he's very tough to click on, in my opinion. As far as bats, I'd be interested in your thoughts on bats in this game, Stevers. And I know that people love to play Snell because of the upside, and he'll likely see higher ownership maybe these other two guys just because of that set upside. And we can't argue with that. Just the price and the matchup are really tough for me to get there today. What's your thoughts on Snell?
Yeah, I'm full fading Blake Snell today for a number of.
If you're full fading, are you playing Dodgers bats?
Yes, I'll have some Dodgers bats, some of the cheaper ones, because I'm not going to 5-man against Blake Snell, even though I'm full fading him. I'm not going to 5-stack against him. I just think he deserves more of my respect than that. He has been really good, other than the walks. I'm adding up the innings and the walks right now, and it's pretty bad. I mean, he's putting guys on base. I think maybe there's a part of him that's just afraid of his stuff. I don't know. When I watch him, he's trying to get guys outside, trying to get guys to swing and miss outside of the strike zone. He's trying to go underneath the hands at both sides of the plate, and guys just aren't biting. And when they're not swinging at pitches that you're trying to nibble with, this is what happens. The walk rate goes up. But just in general for this slate, so I have no idea about what the algorithm is on what projections are and what pricing has to be for these guys. But this is kind of a unique slate in the sense where you don't have a lot of number one frontline guys, and somebody's got to be expensive, right? So the guys that ended up being expensive on this 8-gamer are Corbin Burnes and Blake Snell and Kenta Maeda. They ended up being more expensive than I'm comfortable playing them at, except for Burnes. I don't like the 11.7 price tag for Burnes, but it just feels like the best option for me. I won't play Blake Snell at 11.1. I will play some Dodgers bats, just kind of try to play off of his ownership a little bit. But I can't get to I can't get to the stack I want by double spending up, and Corbin Burnes is my guy. So I won't have any of Snell today. And I guess I don't know how I feel about it. If he goes out there and shoves, I'll be kicking myself and he'll just beat my brains in today. But I would rather play Burnes at 11.7 than Snell at 11.1. And that's just the route I'm going to take today.
And that's what I mean. I get it. That's what makes the slate fun here, right? You have a bunch of different options as far as where you go there. You can Burnes has upside. Snell has a ton of upside. I'd argue Maeda probably doesn't have as much upside as them too, but he's also 15, 16, 1,700 cheaper, even more cheaper than Burnes, than that to Burnes. So what's interesting is this last game, right? So it's a nice actually pivot, because I'll be honest, pound for pound on this slate, I absolutely love George Kirby. I know it's another guy that you're paying up for, but you're not paying up that much more for him. If you look at his average price this year, his average price has been 91, 92 as far as average goes. He spent a good stretch of the end of June and July where he was in that 93, 94, 95, 9,600 area. He dropped down a bit in his last two starts. He gets an Angels lineup that's really dealing with injuries. This is not the typical Angels lineup. I mean, Trout's out again, obviously issue staying healthy again. And just looking at this lineup every day, it's not great. The Mariners are a road favorite here in a spot, to me, that makes sense, whether it's for their bats or Kirby all around it. It does make sense for the Mariners. So, yeah, I like Kirby. of all the top pitchers at top prices, we'll go from 9,500 up. Kirby's my favorite of all of them. He's got good peripheral props from the betting markets. He's going to be lower owned than all these guys. I'm trying to get the exact number. He's going to be 17%, 16%, just substantially lower owned than these guys. And I'd argue he has other stuff, or he has a top ceiling that could pair well with these three. I mean, these three could go out and get you 23, 24 each. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. Kirby went out there and got 26, 27. But even if he got you 23, 24, he's priced cheaper and he's going to be lower owned. So it does give you that benefit as well. Really like the Mariners here in this spot in both directions. Stevers, what says you about this game?
Yeah, again, I went. So my strategy today was to play Corbin Burns and then to pair him with somebody down the road. So I didn't get to George Kirby, although all the numbers point that this is a guy that you can absolutely roster. The ownership is there. The Ks are there. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. He's good for 100 pitches. The Angels lineup is weak, is watered down, other than the best player in baseball, obviously. But I just couldn't get there. So every pitcher on this slate got a price increase, like I touched on just in the last game there. It had to be somebody. Like, somebody's got to go up in price. And it turned out that George Kirby was one of them. There were multiple guys that got price increases, the majority of them. So in my player pool, I have Corbin Burns locked in, and then I have very little Kenta Maeda, and then it's Gibson, Nelson, Matz, and Blackburn. Because I can't lock Burns in and pair him with Snell. And I can't pair him with George Kirby. That's just the strategy I've adopted when I started several hours ago, and that's just what I'm sticking with. But I'm on board with you, man. George Kirby can definitely go out there and put up a game for you today. If you want to double spend up, or you want to just start right there and say, okay, I'm not playing Burns, I'm not playing Snell, I'm going to start at George Kirby and go from there. Definitely a candidate that can get you. I mean, he can get double-digit strikeouts, but I do think it's unlikely. If I had to guess his strikeouts, I'd say it falls between 7 and 9, somewhere in there. But he's definitely capable of it. He's capable of throwing you up for 30 fantasy points today. I'm hoping it doesn't happen because I'm not playing him, but he's certainly capable of it, absolutely. The Angels lineup is nothing to fear nowadays. He's in a great spot. I'm not second guessing my strategy today. I'm fully on board with it, with the Corbin Burns play and then down lower, but I can't put up an argument or a fight with people that want to play George Kirby today.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, Jake, I'll be honest, like if folks have rationalized in their own mind that it's okay to pay 11.7 for Corbin Burns in the middle of a down year, and it's okay to pay 11.1 for Blake Snell against one of the best offenses in baseball, I don't know how you can't rationalize playing George Kirby, who has spent half of the year priced in the low 9Ks against a watered-down Angels lineup in a game where they're a road favorite, which is rare for the Mariners to be a road favorite against a team like the Angels. And the Mariners have a pretty good pen behind them. So I guess what I'm getting at is I don't mind that, but in this slate, undoubted, you're going to pick a pitcher that you're overpaying for. It's just the way the slate's drawn up. Even if you play Paul Blackburn, you're overpaying for Blackburn, undoubted. Like his price is not ideal. Yeah. Kyle Gibson, we're overpaying for. If you play Blake Snell, you're overpaying. If you play Corbin Burns, you're overpaying. Kenta Maeda, you're overpaying. You're overpaying for basically every pitcher in this slate. So there's no.
That's what makes this a weird slate, right? Because all of these pitchers' prices are inflated, and under normal circumstances, you would not pay these price tags for these pitchers. But on this 8-gamer, it's just kind of the way the dominoes fell, and you have no choice. I love that point. You're overpaying no matter where you go. It feels like to me you are.
And it's undoubted. Like there's no doubts about it. No matter who you're clicking on, if you're playing this slate, especially if you're playing this slate at volume, whether it's max entry, not max entry, you're overpaying for sure. And Charles Kirby can get outs, but those lefties are going to eat him. They might, but I'll ask you this, Charles: what specific lefties on the Angels are really scaring you outside of Ohtani? I mean, I don't unless you're like a big Moniak guy, which he's been great, sure. A little bit of a skid, but he's been great, sure. Outside of him, I just don't know what other lefties. So those two bats, sure. But you got Ward on the IL. Adele's still been on the IL. It's just the lineup's not what it is. But here's the thing: like you can make the same argument. Like Blake Snell is going to be throwing a ton of extra pitches against a very patient Dodgers lineup. So overall, I don't mind it on the Kirby end. But again, people you can find your spots no matter where you are. Like for instance, if you told me Kirby was going to be 28% owned and Blake Snell was going to be 16% owned, I'd be higher on Blake Snell. I think you just got to take the leverage ownership where you can. And to guys' point, Kirby's a tough guy to click on, especially on the road. Late game hammer. Not everybody wants that. Some people prefer it. Not everybody likes it, especially him being on the road. I just think overall, I do think it makes a lot of sense. Anyway, good stuff, Stevers. We did this in under an hour.
Let me touch on these Seattle bats real quick. I love these Seattle bats. This is one of my top stacks, simply because I am, going to the very top of the board for pitching. Seattle's in a good spot, and I'm just hoping to get the right ownership. I'm hoping that this is not So what do you think are going to be the highest owned stacks? I think Baltimore is going to be the highest owned stack on the slate. No?
I think so. Mariners are definitely going to be up there. I don't know. I'm not saying the top, but they're going to see ownership. A lot of these guys are cheap.
Yes.
As far as bats for Baltimore, yeah, you're looking at obviously Gunnar is going to see a lot of ownership. He's going to be well over 20%. But once you get down there because of price, people aren't going to play as much of these guys. But I mentioned before, like from 4 down, these guys are super cheap on the O's, but none of these guys are going to see ownership. You also got a little bit of merging at first base with Mountcastle and Hearn. You're looking at basically 10 to 15% for those bats on the O's. So nothing really crazy there. Same thing with the Twins is going to be a little less, but I mentioned how I like them for pivot leverage. Brewers, another team that's going to see that sub, we'll call it 8 to 12%. Contreras is going to be quite popular from the catcher position. We talked on the White Sox and Guardians. Both these teams are going to see some ownership, with the Guardians seeing much more than the White Sox. The Cardinals will see some ownership for sure. I actually, looking at all these projections as a whole, it actually is, as this might sound silly to you or not, it actually looks like the Cardinals are the going to be the highest owned, but it's not going to be like a crazy disparity. Like it's going to be,
I can see that.
Maybe instead of 15%, they're going to be like 18 or 19% as a group.
I can see that. So for my main team's going to have Corbin Burns on it. And I'm going to run Kyle Gibson out there on my main team. So the 5-man stack can't be it can't be the high-priced Orioles, and it can't be the high-priced Cardinals. So Seattle's a place I'd love to go if I can get them being like the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th highest owned stack. So a place I would love to go. And so in my 20 max, when Corbin Burns is in the lineup, the 5 stack is either going to be Minnesota or Seattle. And then I got a couple of lineups in there that are downstairs with like Matz and Blackburn and Gibson and Blackburn. And that's in those lineups is how I'm going to get to Baltimore and St. Louis. It's kind of an overview of where I'm playing today.
No, fair enough. I think you're going to see a lot of people mixing and matching. I like that Minnesota end because they're cheap. You can get cheaper bats there. Can't argue with St. Louis. You can play all those righties against the lefty. And look, Seattle, same thing. I will say this. I'll give a few home run shouts that I think make a lot of sense. Eugenio Suarez, 3,300, 3-hole for Seattle. Has absolutely been on a little mini heater for sure. Talking 4 or 5 straight games where he's been really seeing the ball well. And then Tyler O'Neill, another cheap guy for the Cardinals. A guy that I think a lot of people expected to have a much better year than he's already had. The home runs just have not been there. But they have been there lately. 2 home runs in 2 of his last 3 games. Sees a lefty today as well for that cards group. So I do like those two at cheap prices to potentially dong. So leverage that how you'd like. Steve, you want to give us a home run call and we'll get out of here?
Yeah, I won't have a lot of them, unfortunately, but it's got to be Nolan Arenado for me. I just facing this lefty Blatch and this bullpen, I just have to think that he's going to have a monster day today. He's going deep today. He's hitting in the 3-hole in St. Louis. They're going to put up a lot of runs today. So give me Nolan Arenado for the dome call.
Love it. Love it. Good stuff all around, right at an hour. Everybody, thank you. Vegas Bruce as well. OMG Father Moran. Loved you guys obviously comment throughout the video, so always appreciate that. Guys, also like the video before you exit. It's not hard. And look, if you want all the content, 23% off for life, promo code NFL23. It is literally right around the corner. So definitely check us out in that respect. I'll be back tomorrow morning with Holden. Hopefully Holden, if you're playing hooky again. Joey working, Gary talking baseball. And then more NASCAR stuff with Coop. So wish you guys all the best of luck tonight. Gamble responsibly, stay safe. And as always, run pure. See you guys tomorrow.